Arlington, Virginia was just voted the #2 city in the United States to live in. And as a lifelong resident and real estate agent, I'm going to tell you the top 10 neighborhoods. Number 1 is Lyon Park. So Lyon Park is a residential neighborhood with a small town feel, just steps outside of all the action in Clarendon and just minutes to DC. There are tree-lined streets and it's a very close-knit type of neighborhood. The boundaries of Lyon Park are Route 50 to the south and east, 10th Street to the north, and Irving Street on the west. A little background on this neighborhood: it began development in the 1920s, like a lot of Arlington neighborhoods, and still has many historic houses. Lyon Park is a residential area and there's about 2,500 homes. They have a variety of housing stock, including some of these historic Sears houses mixed in with newer craftsman houses, modern houses, and also restored brick homes. There are an eclectic mix of houses here and they do tend to sell quickly when they become available. Prices for single-family homes here will start at around $1 million, but most will be more than that, especially if they're newer. And there are some condos actually on the edge of the community that are obviously less expensive. In terms of recreation and things to do, there's a community center in the heart of the neighborhood that hosts different holiday events and activities throughout the year. There are also several parks in the neighborhood with a basketball court, green space, playgrounds, and more. Since you're just blocks to Clarendon, you also have easy access to all the restaurants, the metro station, and all the shopping in Clarendon. And as far as transportation goes, you're just a few minutes commute to DC. You have the Clarendon metro station that I already mentioned, and there's also bike shares, bus routes, and it's a very walkable community. Overall, Lyon Park is one of the most popular and convenient neighborhoods in Arlington, and also one of the more expensive options. Next up, we have Lyon Village. So this also has a suburban residential feel, but you're right next to Clarendon and DC. It's very similar to Lyon Park, but you're just on the other side of Clarendon. The boundaries of Lyon Village are Lee Highway on the north, Kirkwood Road on the west, Wilson Boulevard on the south, and North Beach Street on the east. This is also the closest residential area you can be in Virginia without being in DC. You basically leave your street, leave the quiet residential area, get on Langston Boulevard or Lee Highway, and you can pretty much get to DC in just a minute or two. A little background on Lyon Village: it was developed by a guy named Frank Lyon, who developed both Lyon Park and Lyon Village in the 1920s. And to this day, they're one of the most popular neighborhoods in Arlington. Now, Lyon Village is a little bit smaller than Lyon Park. You don't have as many houses. There's really only about 800 houses here, and really only about 25 to 30 that sell every year. Most of the prices here are going to be even more expensive than Lyon Park. So a lot here, just the dirt, a tear down property, is easily going to be around 800, if not more than that. And once they start building the new construction properties, most of those are going to sell around 2.5. However, you still do have a mix of some of the older houses from the 1920s that have been restored, as well as the brand new construction ones. So you don't always have to pay that amount, but you are going to be paying a premium because you're walking distance to Clarendon and just a minute or two to DC. And similar to Lyon Park, there's also a few condos that are kind of on the outskirts of the community that are pretty popular. As far as recreation goes, there is a park in the middle of the neighborhood that has a basketball court, tennis court, and playground. And it does get pretty busy, so it's a big draw to the community. As far as the restaurants and things to do, again, you're walking distance to Clarendon. There's a Whole Foods right there, and you have different cafes and bars that are right there in Clarendon. The transportation options: you have the metro stop at Clarendon. A lot of people bike, bus, you can walk. It's very convenient. You can also drive. If you're commuting to DC, it's a very easy commute if you want to drive. Overall, and similar to Lyon Park, it's going to be one of the most convenient neighborhoods in all of Arlington, but also one of the more expensive options. And real quick, 10 seconds. If you have any questions or interest in buying, selling, or living in Arlington, reach out to me. I would love to help. Number 3, we have Westover. And this popular neighborhood has a small town feel with quiet tree-lined streets and also a quaint Main Street and even a farmer's market. The boundaries of Westover are Route 66 to the south, McKinley Road to the west, 16th Street to the north, and Jefferson Street to the east. This neighborhood was established in the 1940s and still has a lot of those older brick houses. Actually, Warren Beatty's childhood house is right in this neighborhood, or really right next to this neighborhood. So I'll show a photo of that. And you're going to have, again, a mixture of these older houses. A lot of people do renovations and expansions, as well as the new construction homes. And then there's some townhomes and apartments, although it's mostly single family. The biggest draw to the neighborhood is Westover Village, which has a lot of local favorite restaurants, including Lost Dog Cafe, the Italian Store, Lebanese Taverna, and the ever popular Westover Beer Garden, which has live music and a lot of the locals. It's a very cool local hangout spot. Everyone knows everybody there. And then there's also a few coffee shops in the neighborhood as well. Westover is a very walkable neighborhood. Then as far as transportation, you also have the East Falls Church Metro, which is about a mile from the neighborhood depending on where you are. Then you have easy access to Route 66. There's a couple bus lines along Washington Boulevard, as well as bike stations. And there's also easy access to the W and OD Trail and Custis Trails if you're into biking, jogging, exercising, that type of thing. Since you're in North Arlington with the great schools and the charming neighborhood, you will be paying a lot to live here. However, it's not going to be as expensive as Lion Park or Lion Village. Next up, we have Roslin. Now, Roslin is more of an urban neighborhood, urban metropolis located just across the bridge from Georgetown. Some even compare it to a mini Manhattan of the DC area with all the high rises that it has. And Roslin is great if you're looking for a condo, a luxury condo, or even a garden style condo, or townhomes. There's several townhomes ranging from some of the older ones to to multi-million-dollar townhouses with great views of DC. The boundaries of Roslin are Lee Highway to the north, Road Street to the west, 12th Street and North Marshall Street to the south, and I-66 to the east. Roslin actually has an interesting history. In the 1800s, it was more or less a red light district with saloons, gambling, and brothels. There's also a lot of Civil War history in Roslin with Fort Corcoran, which helped to protect the bridges to DC. As far as the real estate goes in Roslin, it's known for many high-rise office buildings, but there's also luxury condo apartments, some townhouses, and even some older garden-style houses. So most people think Roslin is all brand new luxury stuff, but there's really options for every price range. Another great thing about Roslin is that there are a ton of different gyms, ranging from Gold's Gym and Anytime Fitness to more of the boutique group fitness programs like Bash Boxing, Orange Theory, E60, and others. There's also several trails if you're into hiking or biking, and you have easy access to the Custis Trail, C&O, Capitol Crescent Trail, Mount Vernon Trail, and Roosevelt Island is also right there. So Roosevelt Island is a great place for a hike, jog, walk the dog, or just explore a little bit. There's also a growing number of restaurants and things to do in Roslin. It was almost always known as more of a place where people just go to work. However, now you have many more restaurants. There's an outdoor festival area that has movie nights and different yoga and just different events. There's an outdoor beer garden. There's also a pretty cool sightseeing area called the View of DC, which has 360 panoramic views of DC, and it can also be rented out for events. And of course, you have Iwo Jima Memorial. So you'll see a lot of tourists in Roslin. A lot of people that stay in DC oftentimes stay in Roslin. And then on the 4th of July, that area over by Iwo Jima gets packed. There's not much nightlife in Roslin, which is good or bad depending on what you prefer. However, if you do prefer nightlife, you're just a minute or two to DC or Clarendon, where you have many more options. But it's nice that Roslin is not as loud as some of those places. In terms of grocery stores, there's really only a Safeway and a Target. However, if you want some more options, just up the street in Clarendon, there's a Whole Foods and a Trader Joe's. As far as the transportation options go, I don't think there's any neighborhood in Arlington that is more convenient. There is a metro station. Roslin is walkable to Georgetown. There's several bus lines and many different garages for parking. There's bike shares, car shares, scooters, pretty much whatever you need, Roslin has it. There's also a pickup point in Roslin if you're taking one of those buses to New York City or Philly or Boston. Overall, Roslin is a very convenient urban neighborhood with everything right at your doorstep and a growing number of restaurants and amenities. Next up, we have Country Club Hills. Now, this is a much more residential neighborhood than Roslin. Country Club Hills is a very scenic, exclusive residential area just minutes from Clarendon, Boston, and DC. So the boundaries of Country Club Hills, and it's not a massive neighborhood. The houses are massive, but the neighborhood itself is not massive. It's just north of Washington Golf and Country Club, east of Glebe Road, Ditmar Road to the north, and then Vermont Street to the east. And like many neighborhoods in Arlington, it was established around the 1920s. And this one, the whole neighborhood was established on just 126 acres of land. So there's really only about 500 houses here, but you have big lots, big houses, and it's one of the most expensive places you can be. Many of these houses are mega mansions. You do still have some of the older houses, but it seems like every week you go down one of the streets, another house is knocked down to make way for one of these bigger homes. The prices in Country Club Hills are going to be in the multi-million-dollar range. This might be the most expensive neighborhood in Arlington because you're close to everything. You have more space. It feels like you're very far away from everything, but you're still just a short drive to things. You're typically not going to be walking to different restaurants in Country Club Hills. However, you do have the Washington Golf and Country Club, which is in that neighborhood and dates back to the 1890s. The transportation options, you have a metro that's a short drive away. But you're really going to be driving places. A lot of people walk around the neighborhood, but more so just to walk their dog or get some exercise. But it's a very easy drive into DC. Overall, Country Club Hills is a scenic, quiet neighborhood with expensive and very large homes. The next neighborhood we have is Ashton Heights. Now this is a residential area just outside of Clarendon and Ballston, and it's popular for its convenience, relaxed atmosphere, and it has a ton of different style of homes as well. The boundaries of Ashton Heights are Route 50 to the south, North Irving to the east, Wilson Boulevard to the north, and then Glebe Road to the west, and this neighborhood is right next to Lyon Park and Ballston. As far as the background of the neighborhood, many of the homes here were built in the early to mid 1900s, and then you have a wave of new construction homes being built here, but they range in style. So if you drive through Ashton Heights, you'll see so many different styles of homes. Because you are so close to everything, and also because the neighborhood feels so relaxed when you're in it, you're going to be paying over $1 million for a house, and that's likely going to be an older, restored house. If you're looking for new construction, it's likely going to be over $2 million, maybe $3 million. When you live in Ashton Heights, though, you're right next to all the restaurants and shopping that Ballston has to offer. You're also very close to my favorite Peruvian chicken, many people's favorite Peruvian chicken place, Pollo Rico, including Anthony Bourdain's. And then as far as grocery shopping, you have a Trader Joe's and a Whole Foods nearby. The transportation in Ashton Heights is convenient. You have the Clarendon or Ballston metro stops, depending on which part of the community you live in. And then there's also bus lines, and people bike, walk around, drive. It's a very convenient neighborhood. Number 7, we have Barcraft. So this is a historic neighborhood with, again, a variety of home styles, including the older, smaller, historic ones, mixed in with some newer homes, and everything in between. The boundaries of Barcraft are Arlington Boulevard to the north, George Mason Drive to the east, Columbia Pike to the south, and 4 Mile Run and South Abington Street to the west. So what's great about Barcraft is that you're in South Arlington, where the homes tend to be more affordable than your North Arlington counterparts. The boundary between North and South Arlington is Route 50 right there, but you're still so close to everything, and you have very nice and quiet streets. So in Barcraft, you don't always have to pay over $1 million. You're going to have some smaller, older houses under that. And then, if the house is larger, fixed up, shows well, you're going to be over $1 million, but it's much better in terms of affordability. There's also many parks and a rec center in the neighborhood. So you have the Barcraft Community Center, which has basketball, gym, and more. And then you also have Alcova Heights Park, which is 13 acres. It has a playground, basketball, volleyball, picnic, and everything else. And then there's also 4 Mile Run Park, which connects to the W&OD Trail, which you can take down to Mount Vernon or even go further out. As far as things to do in the community, there's lots of community events at the Barcraft Community Center. You're also close to Columbia Pike that has the Cinema Draft House for shows or movies, stand-up comedy, and then all the restaurants and cafes and bars along Columbia Pike as well. The transportation options are not as convenient as Clarendon or Ballston, but you do have bus service along Columbia Pike. People drive, and then you're a very short drive away from a metro stop as well. Overall, it's a great, affordable residential neighborhood. Next up, we have Cherrydale, and this is a charming neighborhood with historic houses located just outside of Clarendon and Ballston, and of course, close proximity to DC. The boundaries are Route 66 to the south and east, Utah Street to the west, and Lorcum Lane at the north. This neighborhood was actually established in 1893 and was named after a resident's large cherry orchard behind the post office, and is also home to the first school in Virginia to desegregate, Stratford Junior High School. As far as the types of properties, it's almost all single-family houses, many of which are older and have been nicely restored. There are a few townhomes and apartments, but mostly people buy here because they like the nature and parks in the area while being so close to the downtown parts of Arlington and DC. This neighborhood, even if you don't want to buy here, is very scenic. You should just walk around the neighborhood. There's little trails, even a pond, and you get some of these cherry trees as well. The prices here are going to be expensive, but people love living in Cherrydale. And while it is mostly residential, there is actually a grocery store and some small shops and restaurants in the area, as well as an old hardware store. So if you're looking for more amenities, you're just a few minutes to Clarendon or Ballston. But this community is very cool because it also has that small town feel, and there's lots of community events like block parties, 4th of July barbecues, and things like that. The transportation options, you have a couple different bus lines in the neighborhood, and then your closest metro stops are either going to be Ballston or Virginia Square, which, not quite walk. I guess you could walk there. Maybe it'll be like a 15-20 minute walk, but you're pretty close by. Number 9, and we are heading into South Arlington with Aurora Highlands. And this is a scenic neighborhood with a small town feel, and you are walkable to Pentagon City and Crystal City. And if you can see a theme here, a lot of Arlington neighborhoods have this small town feel, but then you're just right next to more of an urban area. The boundaries of Aurora Highlands are south of Pentagon City, west of Crystal City, with Hayes Street and Virginia Highlands Park to the north, Joyce, 26, and Grant Street to the west, and Glebe Road to the south. And like many Arlington neighborhoods, it went through a lot of development in the 1920s through 1950s. As far as the types of properties here, it's going to be mostly single-family houses with these older bungalow styles, as well as some new construction. And then there's a few townhomes. And then once you get into Crystal City and Pentagon City, there's going to be a lot of condos and apartments. And Aurora Highlands is a historic district, so you do have some of these older Sears catalog homes. Now, as far as prices go, it's not going to be as pricey as North Arlington, but with Amazon HQ2 being built right basically in the neighborhood, it's still going to be expensive. And even without Amazon HQ2, you're still so close to Pentagon City and the DCA airport and downtown DC. When it comes to recreation in the community, you have the Virginia Highlands Park that has tennis, soccer, basketball, baseball, dog park, picnic tables, and community events throughout the year. There's also Fort Scott Park, which has pickleball and tennis. One of the great things about living in this neighborhood is that depending on where you are walking distance to the restaurants and small businesses along the main strip there. You're also right next to Pentagon Row, Pentagon City Mall, and all the shops and restaurants in Crystal City. When it comes to transportation, there are 2 metro stations, and you're also just literally a few minutes away from DCA Airport. There's also bus access and bike paths. Overall, Aurora Highlands is a convenient neighborhood with something for everyone. The next neighborhood is Charlington, and this is located on the southern border of Arlington with tons of dining options, walkable community, variety of condos, apartments, townhouses, and even some single-family homes. The neighborhood is bounded by 395, 4 Mile Run Drive, Walter Reed Drive, and King Street. So this neighborhood was developed in the 1940s, but only around the year 2000 did it really start to grow when the main street was developed, which has a theater, grocery store, more apartments, and then there are just about every type of cuisine of restaurant you can imagine right along there. One of the great things about living in Charlington is the recreation. So 4 Mile Run Trail goes directly through the community, and it's great for joggers, bikers, dog walkers, and others. And there's also plenty of parks in the area, including basketball, tennis, baseball, and then the dog parks. Charlington is very dog friendly. There's actually a dog park right next to a brewery, so a lot of people kind of go to the dog park and then bring their dog to that brewery. As far as the types of properties here, it's going to be mostly condos and townhouses, although there will be a few single family options in the surrounding communities. When it comes to prices, Charlington is going to be more affordable than Clarendon, Ballston, and some of these other North Arlington areas along the Orange Line. However, the one downside with Charlington, you're not on a metro stop. You do have easy bus access, easy driving distance to different places, but you're not walking distance to a metro. As far as things to do in the neighborhood, Charlington Village has basically everything you would want in a community. You have dozens of restaurants, a couple breweries, movie theater, an actual theater, the Signature Theater, a library, an animal shelter, Harris Teeter, and then many other independent stores. And like I mentioned with the transportation, you don't have the metro stop. However, you do have a $2 million bus stop, and it's also commuter friendly because you have 395 right there. Overall, Charlington is an affordable, convenient neighborhood with lots of restaurant and recreation options and very close to DC. So let me know what you think and reach out to me if you have any questions about buying, selling, or living in Arlington.